Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to our first discussion of the great Mozart's. He called it in this first production in Prague in 1787. He called it Il dissoluto punito, ossia Don Giovanni, which means the punished desolate. Desolate. I don't know what I could translate that as the punished bad man or the punished rake. The punished dissolute, right. Or Don Giovanni. That's the full title of it, and that's what he called it. As usual, I'd like the tone and the agenda to be set by not just me, but by everybody in the audience, certainly by our singers. If you have any questions, I promote dialogue as much as possible. You know, you're not an orchestra, so I'm not up there commanding that you do things. No, but you're entitled to ask questions. In fact, I encourage you to do that, albeit something about Mozart or the great Da Ponte, this great libretto writer. And there's so much that we can get into. And if you have any kind of questions at all about whatever, raise your hand, even if you want to ask our performers up here a question. But before we begin, my mic just went up. I'd like to introduce our director. Now, the Academy of Vocal Arts has done many productions of Don Giovanni. We have done, I don't know, since I've been here, maybe 6 or 7 productions, possibly even more. I find the opera to be, I love Don Giovanni. Perhaps people call Le Nozze di Figaro the more perfect opera, and maybe that might be true. But what other opera do you know of Mozart's that begins in a minor key? When you think of The Marriage of Figaro, C major, overture in C major. When you think of even Abduction Seraglio, that's C major, begins in C major. And Magic Flute, a major key, E flat major. Even I think the Idomeneo begins in the major key. This one begins in D minor. This one begins in D minor. That's immediately, and D minor we associate with, where C minor might be tragic, has a rounded, tragic sound. C minor has more of a maestoso quality, more of a majestic minor quality about it. And what other opera do you know, especially of Mozart's, that in the first 5 or 10 minutes you have a seduction, a failed rape, a seduction, and a killing. All this in the first 5 minutes of an opera of Mozart. This just doesn't happen with Mozart. Figaro opens, everybody's charming, everybody talks about what are you going to do, what's your wedding present, etc. Not this opera. This opera gets to the point. And I haven't been to many staging rehearsals yet, I have not. It's my bent to leave the stage director alone. He or she does not need me interfering. But we're very fortunate, and I just love the idea that we have a new stage director, someone who's never worked for AVA before, but we're delighted to have him. I know all the performers just think he's terrific. And I'd like to introduce him, and his name is Jeffrey Buchman, Jeffrey Mark Buchman. Now, I have a few notes on Jeffrey that he began his studies in the Baltimore School of Arts. He's actually from Baltimore. Yes, so he's There you go. And he was a singer too before. I've talked with Jeffrey about, he is still a baritone, I'm sure. And he's done the role of Don Giovanni, which is enormously helpful for the young singers. Which, by the way, I'm sidetracking. I don't think anyone up here has ever done their particular role in this opera before. It's the first time for everybody. So this is like, Maria Callas's first Norma. So you'll have so-and-so's first. But anyway, yes, he has performed a lot, and he's gone on to do operas in Florida, IU. I noticed you have a production coming up in IU. Right. The Barber Seville is coming up for you. Well, Barber Seville, you're doing that in
Baltimore.
Oh, the Lyric Opera in Baltimore. That's right. Well, he's young, talented. He knows the words. I'll let you into a big secret here. There are a lot of directors who direct operas that don't know the words. You know, they have an idea, or they'll direct through a Wheaton Thomas Martin translation, which is, but so, and we're very fortunate to have him. Also, I must note that Rosa Mercedes, who husband and wife, Rosa is here acting as Jeffrey's assistant. You might remember her work when Tito Capobianco, we did Don Quixote, and she did the choreography. She's a choreographer. So we're happy to have her back, and you're someplace here. Rosa, So, I mean, really, and she has a Spanish background. Don Giovanni is Spanish. They even have a dog they call Don Juan. So, and you have a wonderful young stage director who sung the role. I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll proceed from there.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, it's just such a pleasure to be here. Be at a place like AVA. What an incredible institution, not only for Philly, but for the opera industry. It really is such a pleasure to be here. And I'll fill you in even more. We got married in Seville, so our connection there goes deep. And Maestro, you're absolutely correct. Not only do I know the words, but I love the words. I am a lover of text, of language. And that really primarily is what I'm trying to get all of these singers to embrace, is that love of language, the love of interpretation, the love of finding your way through a text into vocal color with intention behind it, and how that manifests itself musically. So that all of the incredible training they're getting from so many different directions, and not just training, but life experience as a musician and an artist, is ultimately leading them to one seamless path of great vocal technique, great vocal color, articulation, language. All of that is one thing. It's not 10 layers. It is all one and the same. And so that in the daily process of staging, that really is a focus of what we're doing. Getting into interpretation, making sure we're getting to where Maestro's leading them, but doing it through a dramatic place, and not having that be something that they'll add on later. And so many of them just really grasp that well. I'm so impressed with the level of skill and talent and passion that's here. So I think that process has been incredible. As a stage director, you walk into this space and the first thing you do is you look over here and you go, oh my God. How am I gonna pull that off? But you know what? It's these kind of challenges, I think, that bring out incredible creativity, and what happens is it pulls that camera lens really tight in on the singers. And it gets them to do what they need to do on the huge stages, which is to get that constant subtext, that constant connection from word to word, and in those spaces they aren't singing, those wheels have to be spinning all the time. We're right on top of each other, and it's not about telling with body language alone the energy. It's all in the glint of the eye, especially with a role like Don Giovanni. Everything's in the eyes, and we've spent a lot of time talking about that. But these spaces are certainly challenging, but boy, it invites an intimate level of storytelling that I think for any actor or singing actor, you just love and embrace. You know, the idea that you can talk about someone and sense them right there, where they're not going to be 30 feet away like they are in bigger houses, it creates a different kind of energy. It also asks us scenically to be very creative, and I think we certainly have done that with this production of Giovanni. I'm really looking forward to having all of you here to see that. But we've created something that's very fluid so that we can ease in and out of scenes, in and out of shadow, in and out of light, very easily and constantly moving from scene to scene. This idea of light and shadow for me and Giovanni is something that I think works beautifully. The idea of chiaroscuro, which we actually brought into the set itself with the Heinz painting of Rape of Persephone, I think lends to that really well. And this idea of light and darkness in the story of Giovanni works beautifully. You know, it certainly is a story about a man and his dark path of destruction, which ultimately leads him to his own unrepentant demise. But he also brings light with him. What kind of light does he bring with him? He illuminates all the cracks and faults in the worlds of the people he comes in contact with. You know, you take this beautiful, lovely peasant wedding scene where everything looks perfect, and by him dangling that carrot out there of io cambierò tua sorte, I can change your fate for you. Serlina bites. Serlina bites that, she nibbles at that carrot, and that is the breakdown of that relationship between Masetto and once, for me, it's like that movie Indecent Proposal. Once that's been opened up and get a little light through that crack, that relationship will never be the same. I think the same kind of thing happens with Anna and Ottavio. Where was their relationship before the opening scene of the opera? Most likely, she was already in those feelings of putting him off, but now she has a very valid reason and excuse, and in my opinion, that wedding is never going to happen. And I think, again, that is about him illuminating cracks and faults in that relationship. So we did a lot of talk about how to use light and shadow in the production, and I think in this space it'll end beautifully for it. And the other thing I can say is that for me, what's been such a wonderful experience in this week, this very short week and a half I've been here, is just to take in a level of singer that has such very high skill set in their toolbox. But they haven't all figured out how to put all of those tools together in a way that really explodes in artistry. And that's what a place like AVA does for them. And certainly to be part of that process for me has been exhilarating, and I can already see people making great strides and getting it, and when you see that in the eyes, there's nothing like it. So to know that I can play some part in their huge careers that I'm sure they're going to have is very special for me. So great to be here. I look forward to speaking more about Giovanni with you, and look forward to hearing this preview. Thank you.